Hello there, this is Patio James Carvin speaking to you from Tallahassee, Florida, state's capital, because I'm on strike with the rest of the world's rideshare drivers. All this gig economy is coming for a shite at this point because the cost of gasoline's going up. But I want to give you the whole story because I don't think you have it all, okay? So I'm out here, I made a couple of posters, let me show them to you. Alright. So here we go, it's on the posters here. Now first off, what's that say? Fed mandate stimulus reimburse all gig drivers gas, okay? So what I'm out here striking for is so we can have gig drivers gas stimulus money come from the federal government. I'm not actually striking against me employer, which is a little bit of a cheapskate in that they only gave 55 cents per ride starting as of yesterday. Both Lyft and Uber gave the exact same 55-cent price. I don't know where they come up with that figure because my math's a lot different. And I'm going to go into that math with you so you can see what our actual cost is. Here's my other poster here that I have. I've spent $30,000 for gas so far. Now that's before the $4 a gallon gas price here in Tallahassee doing city miles. So let me explain where I come up with these figures so you can see, okay? Now, the $30,000 figure is coming from the over 300,000 miles I put on my car doing Uber and Lyft. Since I started here about 8 years ago, moving to Tallahassee in a bit of an emergency to help my sister out. When we moved here, we had to rent. We couldn't own a home, couldn't qualify anyway. And my wife, she's handicapped, she's disabled, so she's paralyzed on her left side. So she's on a fixed income disability, goes up a little bit each year, just a little bit, but not enough to pay our bills. And we had to rent, and the rent's gone up from $1,050 to $1,600 plus when next time we have to renew. So we're going to become homeless, and we've been feeling like we might become homeless ever since we moved here, since I had the only income in the family. And it's all been rideshare since I couldn't get another job otherwise here, given my personal background. And that's the thing about all of this, is the gig workers, they generally, especially the drivers, they do it because they're desperate poor people. It's not because they fell through the cracks somehow to trying to get out of the hole that life's put them into. So that's the lowest of the low, and they're trying to do something about it. That's the class of people having to pay for the war in Ukraine right now. So you understand, if you're wealthy, you own a home, well, you got some assets that are working for you, some money that's working for you, that's great. But when you don't have that stuff, you're living in a panic day to day, wondering how you're going to stay under shelter. So that's the reality for me. So from there, let me also explain how the math works and get straight to that, okay? So, get your calculator out if you want, but you know that a typical car is going to make 20 to 25 miles per gallon in the city. Tallahassee's got a lot of hills on it, right? It's mostly city driving here. So, and never mind that you get tickets sometimes when you're coasting down the hill, even though you have the cruise control set to the speed limit. Doesn't make any difference. You still get the tickets, right? And, you know, we're trying out here to save the students. What you gonna do with the drunken students? So, early in the morning, we're out there in the middle of the night saving the planet, right? That's part of why we do it altruistically sometimes, to try to keep the drunk drivers off the road and keep everything safe for everybody, right? You need some sober people out there, designated drivers, right? That's what we do. We're helping people out while we help ourselves to survive. And there's a few people that do it just because of the kindness of their heart or for some extra, but not me, I tell you that. Now, I don't want to have to put some GoFundMe that takes 20% of my money here. I want the federal government to come in and provide a mandated stimulus to pay retroactively every dollar in gasoline that I've spent doing this good work for this country. Does that not make some sense? Now, I'm from America. I'm an entirely American person. I just happens to be St. Patrick's today, and every single Uber driver and Lyft driver and gig delivery person is supposed to be on strike right now worldwide, and word gets around. So I'm just participating. Now, the math. The math is 20 to 25 miles per gallon, breaks down on a per mile basis, just divide by 20 or 25. Take your pick, take your own car and see what you get in this city. Now, for me, mine's getting about 22 and a half somewhere. But to keep the math simple, let's say I was getting 25 miles to the gallon. That would be 4 cents per mile, right? 4 cents per mile is what I actually spend. Now, think about where I go. First, I go into the city from my home. Second, I have to find a strategic place to be. Now, very often there's surge pricing going, so I'm going to chase that surge around a little bit. Find a place to park if there isn't anything going on, if there's no pings. Got to idle the engine if it's too hot or too cold, otherwise I can roll down the windows, but usually that's not happening. Now, so if I'm paying that much before I even turn the app on, what's going on after the app's on? Well, there's two basic parts once the app's on. Either you're going to pick somebody up, well, you could be having it on, but not on a ride, so that's part of the idling. But let's say I have it on, and I'm on my way to a ride. My average there, probably about 4 miles. And then once I'm on the ride, the average might be 6 miles. Let's say the total between the strategy and the driving and everything is about 10 miles a ride, okay? So now at $1 a gallon, then that would be easy math, right? So in other words, if I'm paying 5 cents per mile, $1 a gallon, I'm paying 5 cents per mile. So if I average rides 10 miles, then that's 50 cents. And if that were the case, that'd be great, because if gasoline only cost $1, then Uber and Lyft, which now as of March 16th have decided that they want to pay per ride 55 cents per trip and charge that the customer is going to pay. The customer is going to pay through the app, and that's all that money's supposed to go directly to the driver. Hopefully that will be the case, and there won't be any cheating and shenanigans going on. You know what I mean? Now, so providing that's all true, that's great for the future. But for only 55 cents, which is about a quarter of what I just described to you at the $4 per gallon cost, which is right now. You see, so what they're doing is they're covering about 25% of our actual expense at this point. Starting to make sense to you? So they can say publicly, look, we reached out to all the drivers and we're offering them 55 cents. And then the customers can say, oh, that's so much money, now we're having to pay for this, and they can rinse their hands free of all the they say they've done something, right? But that's not enough. So what I'm asking for, once again, federal stimulus money, and I wanted to describe a reality that these rideshare companies have to you. First off, they have to be in profit and they're in competition with each other. So the more we ask from them, the more likely it is they're going to go bankrupt. And they're already having some trouble with their net profitability for the whole company and for their shareholders. And I'm not ignorant of that type of thing, even though I'm just a driver and we don't know anything. We're so stupid, right? Because that's all we can do. Well, maybe life just pushed us down a little bit for various reasons. So don't have to go into all the thousands of stories about how that can happen, right? But thinking on the corporate side here, I don't really want Uber to have to pay for it, because they're going to find some other way to maybe reduce our regular rates if I ask them to pay for all of this $30,000 that just me alone has spent in gasoline since I started doing the rideshare. They wouldn't be able to afford it. The company go belly up if we did that. The federal government, on the other hand, apparently they believe they can just keep printing money endlessly, because that's what they're doing, paying for new wars and all the fun stuff that they do, giving themselves raises all the time. All I'd ask is for enough a piece of the pie so I don't become homeless and part of the future problem with my family, and also for the other Uber drivers and Lyft drivers and delivery people, gig share drivers that might be in the same sort of situation. So here it is, St. Patty's Day. We're on strike worldwide. in order to get our message across, and I want to make sure the message is clear what exactly it is that we really want. We're not just complaining about the cost of gasoline going up. We have a serious problem that hits us right to the core of what we are, whether we're Irish or Scotch or whatever we may be. So now, I think I've said what I've had to, so that Lyft and Uber can know that this strike's not about them. It's about the cost of gasoline that I had to pay for and I can't afford. And it's the fact that even though they made a gesture, it's just not enough. It's not where close enough. The actual cost is coming now about $2 per ride, but even so, that might not be fair because every single market's not the same. What they ought to be paying me is by the market and by the actual trip. So, if there was that 5 cents per mile calculated, times also including the distance to the passenger, all right, and then the idling gasoline while the passenger goes in the store, gets something, whatever, I got all these round trips going on, right? Then also the time strategizing, because they're offering surge pricing in some areas, not others. I got to drive very quickly, maybe even dangerously to that spot because I don't want it to disappear. I don't know if you're aware, but from the driver's perspective, the whole thing is a game of whack-a-mole. A whack-a-mole, the mole disappeared before you don't hurry up and get there. So the surge pricing and the strategy disappears on you very quickly. And so that's a little bit dangerous. The driver's trying to race over to the exact spot they had to get to. Oh boy, I wish you knew. Because let's say there's a little 9 on my map in a red area, and I drive 10 feet from it. If I'm not exactly on that little 9 for the extra $9 for the next ride guaranteed, I get maybe $1.50 or something. It's red, but it's not the $9 that's been promised. A little bit of false and deceptive advertising going on there. Maybe I need to get an attorney in on that problem, but that's a separate problem, and I'm not into suing the people, the horse that feeds me. Not trying to bite here. I'm trying to get some help from the people actually causing the gas prices to increase right now and expecting me to sacrifice when I don't have any room for sacrificing available. Okay, now I hope that makes some sense to you. So this worldwide strike on St. Patrick's Day, it's all about trying to get some money from the federal government stimulus special for gig drivers. Makes sense now? And now Uber and Lyft can sure do their part, but whatever they can't do, I'm expecting Uncle Sam to step in and do his part. Okay, so that's about it. Now, on another note, I got me a rainbow, and I got to work as fast as the speed of light squared times the mass in order to go backwards in time, and I'm taking my time out to today on a very lucrative normal day. Oh, what shall we do with the drunken students? What shall we do with the drunken students? Well, today I'm not going to make that my problem. Well, I care a lot. There's a lot I had to sacrifice. I need to actually go backwards in time. And by the way, if you're going to go backwards in time as a leprechaun, what you got to do, it's not only the speed of the rainbow squared times the mass, but it's all that extra you got to put in, because that's only going to bring you to a standstill. You really, you want to travel in time. I really need to. I need about 10 of me, and I need me in all those time frames. Okay, so now I got to get going, all right? So that's the point. Talk to you later, and have a very happy St. Patrick's Day.